Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and Terry is here, and I am here, and I want to ask Terry a question. Would you destroy the American automobile industry in order to gain 0.3% Celsius over 100 years of global warming?
Well, of course not.
Now, that is common sense,
yes.
Midwestern common sense.
Thank you. We'll take that.
All right, but that's what they're asking. They want to destroy American industry, control it by a nameless bureaucracy worldwide on illusory climate goals. But that's what they think. 0.3% Celsius between now and the year 21. What are we? 2100.
Yeah.
100 years from now.
Wow.
You get maybe 0.3% cooler if you.
Because of the ideology of that, do you think they even think through the damage on the business end of things? There's only we must do something.
The game is to control American industry. America is a caged up giant. Our industry is outperforming everybody, and the globalists want to hold America back and subvert it. And that's what the game is. Beyond all that smoke and mirror and all this lovely stuff about carbon, they're not going to control China. They're not going to control India. Have you been to Beijing?
Yes.
Recently?
Well, a couple years.
All right. Well, I went to a church service one Sunday morning, one last time I was over there, and the smog was so bad in Beijing you could hardly breathe. It's just horrible. This law doesn't control any of that. Yeah. They say, well, we'll try to do our best efforts over the next few years, but we're not guaranteeing you how much they're going to be. But we're going to stick it to America. America has already done marvelous things with fracking, with natural gas, with substituting for
emissions control.
Emissions control. It's on cars and everything. We've done marvelous things. And we're going to, and Trump's just got to say no to this treaty. We've got to say no. We will not be bound by this nonsense. Yeah. Well, so much. You see, common sense is sitting here next to me. Midwest, Wisconsin, common sense.
Right.
All right.
That's right. We'll claim that.
All right. Well, the president, hopefully, he's got that common sense, too. He's going to announce his decision whether or not to pull out of that Paris agreement. But what you may not hear from the media is that the agreement would barely have any impact on rising temperatures, what we've just been talking about.
Well, the president has faced pressures from both sides, with some in the administration wanting to leave the accord and others urging him to stay. CBN's White House correspondent Jennifer Wishon has the story.
It's an agreement among nearly 200 nations to fight global warming. During his campaign, Trump criticized the hype surrounding climate change.
A lot of it's a hoax.
And in a decision supported by conservatives, he promised to get the U.S. out of the agreement.
We're going to cancel the Paris Climate Agreement and stop all payments of the United States tax dollars to UN global warming programs.
Some administration officials are signaling he'll keep his promise, but inside the White House, Trump's top advisors have been split. Steve Bannon and a group of more than 20 Republican senators urged him to pull out, while Ivanka Trump, her husband Jared Kushner, Democrats and European leaders pushed him to stay in it.
I continue to lobby the U.S. At all levels to continue to take climate change extremely seriously and to show the leadership that America has shown in the past.
Even Pope Francis pitched the president to keep the U.S. in the deal, last week gifting him a copy of a paper he wrote on human-driven climate change. Critics point out that the Paris Agreement would have little real effect on global temperatures, and they say other countries get off relatively easy, while the U.S. would pay a significant price. The agreement made by President Obama requires the U.S. to cut greenhouse gases by nearly 30% below 2005 levels in 8 years. It's an ambitious goal that would be costly. Some economists predict the deal would result in the loss of 400,000 jobs, an income loss of more than 20,000 for a family of 4. It's a deal that runs counter to Trump's focus on drastically reducing burdensome regulations on businesses and adding jobs to the economy, with an emphasis on manufacturing and mining jobs. An agreement is all it is. President Obama chose to shake on the deal without involving the U.S. Senate, which under the Constitution is supposed to approve international treaties. Still, experts say a formal withdrawal from the agreement would take years. A master dealmaker, Trump has his staff looking at caveats in the language. The final decision is ultimately his, and in keeping with his decision-making practice, the president is hearing from people on all sides. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Jennifer. We hope the president will do the right thing, but we don't need to be crippled with something like that. We don't need an international body looking over our shoulder and trying to rein in our industry. We need to turn the animal spirits of America loose, free from government interference, except in such instances as they are hurting some other people. Well, in other news, the Attorney General of Ohio is going to court to fight the terrible opioid epidemic in that Buckeye state. John Jessup has this story.
Thanks, Pat. Mike DeWine says 5 big drug makers have created a deadly mess in Ohio, and he wants them to clean it up. DeWine sued the companies for intentionally misleading patients about the dangers of painkillers. Mark Martin explains why the Attorney General is blaming them for starting the opioid epidemic in his state.
Ohio is one of now several states that are going after drug makers, saying they've put profits above safety and fueled a nationwide opioid epidemic.
It is just and it is right that the people who played a significant role in creating this mess in the state of Ohio should pay to clean it up.
DeWine says the drug companies flooded his state with misleading information about the risks and benefits of prescription opioids like Oxycontin and Percocet. He spoke with CBN's Lori Johnson about it earlier this year.
We had a number of pharmaceutical companies that developed pain meds, and they were pushing those out, and they were telling the doctors these are not very addictive. Turns out they are very addictive.
Once addicted, some patients then turn to heroin, which is stronger and cheaper. And this addiction is killing Ohioans at a record rate. The Columbus Dispatch reported that county coroners say more than 4,000 died last year from drug overdoses, compared to the record 3,000 the year before. Scenes like this are now all too common. Police rescuing a 4-year-old in a van with his grandmother and her boyfriend passed out, overdosed on heroin. At least one drug company says DeWine's accusations are unfounded, but another says it wants to work together to find a solution. Kentucky and Oregon have filed similar suits against drug makers in recent years and walked away with millions. But DeWine doesn't expect the suit to bring a quick fix. He's created a heroin unit to go after the Mexican cartels that bring the drug to his state. He's promoting education as early as kindergarten, and he's also asking churches for help.
The programs that work, the treatment that works, many times has a faith-based component part to it.
Mark Martin, CBN News.
Pat, this is a great opportunity for churches to help combat the crisis.
3,000 people, just think of that. That's how many died during the horrific 9/11 attack on the World Trade Center. 3,000 people, and we were shocked. America was shocked. The whole world was shocked. And now we hear that 4,000 people last year died in Ohio alone because of these prescription drugs, the opioid epidemic that is killing Ohio. But it's not just Ohio, it's all across America. It's time we do something about it. Well, there's something else we need to do. There has been a shocking misuse of the enormous database that the NSA has accumulated. And the FISA court just reamed the former administration for its misuse of this stuff. And people like Samantha Powers, our UN ambassador, and some of the lesser lights in the Obama administration have been, quote, unmasking people and finding out information about their political enemies. This has not been a good thing. And so far, Susan Rice has refused to testify. But now we've got some work from the House Intelligence Committee, and John will tell us about it.
That's right, Pat. The House Intelligence Committee has issued 7 subpoenas in its investigation into alleged Russian interference in last year's presidential election. The Wall Street Journal is reporting 4 of the subpoenas targeted Mike Flynn, President Trump's former national security advisor, along with his personal attorney, Michael Cohen. The other 3 subpoenas went to the National Security Agency, the FBI, and the CIA. Those subpoenas want the agencies to turn over information on unmasking. That's the practice of revealing the names of Americans who've been picked up in the course of other investigations. Critics have asked why key members of the Obama administration, like former United Nations Ambassador Samantha Power, may have been involved in such a process when her job involved diplomacy, not intelligence. Well, the U.S. has started delivering weapons to Kurdish fighters taking on ISIS in the Iraqi city of Raqqa. It's the beginning of an American move to better equip Kurdish allies. The U.S. believes they're the best fighting force against ISIS, but Turkey considers the Kurds terrorists. In response, the U.S. says it will work to see that the weapons aren't used against Turkey. The equipment, Pat, includes heavy machine guns, ammunition, armored vehicles, and possibly anti-tank missiles.
It's 3 years too late, but thank the Lord it's being done now. Those Kurds in Iraq I just can't say it enough. I've met so many and seen them. They're such wonderful people. They have set up a beautifully working democratic form of administration in northern Iraq, in the Kirkuk area. They do have their hands on a major oil field there. But what they need, and I say it over and over and over again, these people need their own homeland. There are Kurds in Syria, there are Kurds in Iraq, and there are Kurds in Turkey. Now, if the Turks don't want to give their Kurds up, well, that's their business, but at least the other ones should have their own homeland. They should be recognized as a Kurdish nation. And it should be done, but this is the first step, and I think they need to be given the weapons. That Peshmerga, which is the name of the Kurdish fighters, they have been fabulous allies in the fight against terror. Fabulous. They're on the front line, and they're fighting machines. And they just need some weapons, and we need to give them all the help we can. Obama refused to do it, but Trump is doing it, and he's doing the right thing. John?
Pat, back here at home, a humanitarian story. Operation Blessing's hunger strike force has traveled 35 million miles across America since first hitting the road 25 years ago. Operation Blessing truck drivers got their picture taken with CBN founder Pat Robertson after yesterday's 700 Club. The hunger strike force hauls food and supplies to those in need. Over the fleet's 25-year existence, drivers have distributed 1.5 billion pounds of food and relief supplies.
To me, it's like a lifeblood, because when those trucks show up at a disaster site, it means hope has come in. There are people who are hauling blankets, they're hauling fresh water, they're hauling medicine, and more than anything, they're hauling the staples of life.
It feels good just to go into a needy area, especially to see people when they light up and see it's coming. And then when I step outside of that truck, I feel so good to be a part of that, to be able to take care of those people.
I'm grateful for this opportunity. I love the Savior and appreciate CBN and Operation Blessing for the effect they have on people and the help they give.
Driver Frank Kennedy, who you just saw there, told CBN News that he believes his position is a calling and that it's not drivers that minister, it's ministers who drive. Pat, they do great work, and it looks like you guys had a great time.
Well, we did. It was just wonderful to have them here in the studio with us. But just think of that, ladies and gentlemen. My goal was to distribute 100 million pounds of food and supplies every year to the hurting people, those in the inner cities, those in Appalachia, those in disaster areas. And these trucks show up, and what they do, they go into areas like, for example, Idaho, and the potato farmers have surpluses, so they say, if you can get a truck to pick up the potatoes, we'll give you millions of pounds of potatoes just for free. Just come get them. So we run those trucks up there, load up with potatoes, and then take them out to some place where they need. Then we load up with something else and go in another direction. But it's really exciting to see it working. And those trucks are so beautiful. And when, as I say, when they show up at a disaster area and suddenly you see these beautiful trucks, Operation Blessing, one after the other coming in, the people know that there's help, there's food, there's supplies, there's water, there's medicine, there's blankets, there are all the things they need in those trucks. Imagine that. Billions of pounds of food distributed through what we call the Hunger Strike Force. Now, if you want to participate, we sure could use your help. Needless to say, the more the better. And we can get more trucks, more trailers and everything if we have the funds. So the number is 1-800-700-7000. It's Operation Blessing International. And if you want to say, I want to participate in the Hunger Strike Force, that's what it's called, all those trucks to help, that's help at home. We do a lot of work overseas, but this particular initiative is for the U.S. of A., and it's really helping people. You have no idea how important this is. I remember Katrina down in New Orleans. We had those trucks loaded with groceries, and we backed up to a Salvation Army kitchen, literally connected them to, and we were taking the groceries out of our trucks, giving them into the kitchen. The kitchen was feeding the people, and we might feed as many as 30,000 people a day, starving. No, they weren't starving, but very hungry people who lost everything because of Katrina. And we were there, and that Hunger Strike Force linked in with our dear friends of the Salvation Army. It all works together. Hallelujah.
That's why God puts us in family, right?
That's right. Okay.